Simplifying radicals. So if I zoom back here a little bit, I've made 3 problems, which are going to turn into 3 columns, because there's 3 situations of simplifying radicals. And I'm going to do several examples of each, and hopefully you can just see those categories in your head. Situation number 1, radical 15 cannot be simplified. Cannot. We'll come back to that in a second, because you might think it can, but it cannot. If that's your answer, that's your answer. Radical 16, well, that simplifies to 4 because that's, we call it radicals, but it's a square root sign. Square root of 16 is 4. Radical 18, now this is the one that can be broken down. In your brain or on your piece of paper, you want to have a list of all the perfect squares. Put them in order. You can go as high as you want. I'm not going to make ones that go, we'll say I won't make any ones that go super high, but this is 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, all the way up to 10 squared. Notice I don't do 1 squared, that's not helpful. And in order to simplify a radical, you need one of these guys to divide evenly into it. Now, a lot of these numbers are too big, so it's between 4 and 9. 9 goes into it, so we can break radical 18 into radical 9 times radical 2. Now, the square root of 9 is 3, so the simplified radical is 3 radical 2. And this is the most difficult situation. Here, it was perfect. Now here, you might be wanting to break it down into radical 5 times radical 3, but none of these are perfect squares. None of them are on the list. So that's why you don't need to break it down. It's good. So let's come up with another one that can't be broken down. How about radical 17? Done. Nothing else you can do to radical 17. Let's pick another one that comes out very nicely. We'll say radical 49. That's 7. So you see this? Category 1, category 2. Now let's do one that can be broken down. Let's do 175. That's a little more difficult. If you are good with numbers, it should be obvious which one divides into it. If you aren't, you could be like 100 doesn't go in, 81 doesn't go in. You could experiment. But hopefully you realize that it's radical 25. That's the one that goes in evenly. Think about how many quarters go into $1.75. That might be a good way for you to realize that it's radical 25 times radical 7. And that breaks down into 5 radical 7. So these are the ones that are going to cause you problems, and we'll do one more set of examples here, but just to emphasize the point of these are the only ones that can be broken down. So can I come up with another one? Well, how about the square root of, I don't know, 99? You cannot come up, oh, wait, radical 9 times radical 11. See, I was being a little too tricky there. Maybe I better play it safe. Let's call it 29. Radical 29 cannot be broken down. 99 could be broken down 9 and 11. Okay, what's one that comes out perfectly? How about square root of 121? That comes out to be 11. And now let's do one that's kind of tricky. Square root of 48. Why is that tricky? Well, because a lot of you will jump to 4 goes evenly into 48. But if there's a bigger number on this list that goes into 48, that's the one you choose. And 16 goes in evenly. You want to do 16. If you do 4, you haven't simplified it enough. So we'll do radical 16, and that's times 3. And that turns into 4 radical 3. Okay, that's the answer. Well, what happens if you chose 4? Let's just kind of go through that. You would say, well, I know that 4 times 12 is 48, and you would end up with 2 radical 12. So 2 radical 12, if you type it into a calculator, you will get the same decimal value as 4 radical 3, and you would say to me, I did it. Why aren't you giving me full credit? Well, that's because radical 12 can be broken down by the 4. So you would end up with this crazy situation where you would do that. See what I did? I broke it down further. And that would be 2 times 2 times radical 3. 2 times 2 is a 4, and bam, back to 4 radical 3. So this is something that can be a little tricky when there's 2 numbers, but these are the tough ones. Please recognize your perfect squares. And then there's radicals you cannot simplify. 3 categories.